Peace to the planet. It is a D to the Bishop chilling. This is Bishop Chronicles. We're always on this balance, right? Of martial arts, philosophy, and I brought Carl Green on. You don't know Carl Green yet, but you're about to know Carl Green. He's from one of the toughest schools, one of the toughest schools in the UK, one of my favorite, personal favorites in the UK. Leicester Shoe Fighters. Carl, man, thank you for coming on Bishop Chronicles. How are you doing today?
I'm good today, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I'm really looking forward to this. This is gonna be good. It's gonna be fun.
Dude, I haven't seen you since the seminar when I was out there and we were having fun
Yeah,
that day.
yeah.
I do want to say though, if you ever go to Leicester Shoe Fighters, what month was that? What month was that when I went there?
It's February time, March time, maybe.
Listen, Jesus Christ, it was cold. I
It
have
was so cold. Yeah.
I have never in my life grappled indoors and been as cold.
Hmm. Well, that's the
And
thing here. Like, there's about 2 months out of the year where it's nice temperature to train,
yeah,
and the
yeah, yeah.
whole rest of the year is either too hot or it's too cold. There's nothing in the
Yo,
middle. Nothing in the middle.
oh my God. When I did my first seminar, I got seduced. The weather was great. The light was, see how the light's coming through the back window over there? That's what it was like when I got there.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I showed up in February, bro, my toes were frozen on the mat, bro.
That's the
But look
thing.
how
Like,
many
it's
people
like a
still came. It was amazing.
yeah, it's a big open space, like really high ceilings. It looks really nice
It looks
when the
amazing.
sun's up. It looks beautiful when the sun's up. It's a great office to hang out in. But man, when the temperature's cold, if it's 0 degrees outside, it's at least 0 degrees inside.
Yo,
Always.
but man, what a great school. What a great team. What a great history. So first of all, spell Leicester, because I know people are going to be spelling it Lester.
Yeah.
They can find it right. Okay. And tell us
It's
where it is in the UK, because this is not London. This is not Leeds. Leicester is its own planet with its own people and history. Break it down.
yeah, we're pretty much slap bang in the middle of the country. I'm not going to spell it out in case I get it wrong, but you'll find us on Google if you go looking for us.
Leicester
Um,
Shoe Fighters.
yeah, yeah. So I joined the school. It's coming up to in October this year. It'll be 16 years. 16 years that I've been here
Wow.
for. Yeah, 16 years. And I'm pretty sure the gym, so Nathan, the owner, he just moved the gym to this place
Yeah.
probably only about a year before I joined. So I hadn't been very long. I
Okay.
hadn't been here very long. He'd been moving between other places, doing the old school martial arts thing, teaching out of like
Other
sports halls
gyms.
and other
Yeah.
gyms, yeah, doing that whole thing. And then eventually he set his own place up here. That was kind of to the end of him running a pro team. So he was
Okay.
kind of moving on from his pro team phase, going into running like a regular gym with like normal people, like a gem pop gym, basically.
He's so cool, man.
And yeah, man, he's one of the OGs of the grappling scene in the UK, or one of the OGs of the MMA scene in the UK, big time. Yeah,
Period, man. Like you can't have a full conversation about the UK MMA scene and not mention Nathan. He's
yeah. Like everybody knows him. Everybody
salute,
knows
man.
him.
And what a
Doesn't
human
matter where I
being,
go. Yeah,
right? Outside of his coaching, what a great human being.
yeah.
Yo,
Yeah, man, he's like obviously I met him through joining the gym 16 years ago, but me and him are real close now. We've been working together a long time.
yeah,
But he's always looked after me. So he's like an older brother to me now, which is very
yeah.
cool.
That's
But yeah, so I started here 16 years ago. I'd come from like a traditional martial arts background, so I'd done
what were you
like
doing? What were you doing
I've done
before?
about 12 years of like a mix of like taekwondo and kickboxing. It's all striking stuff, all striking, no grappling, all striking, all like very traditional martial arts style stuff.
And what was your introduction to
I'm
jiu-jitsu?
sorry.
What was your introduction to jiu-jitsu and grappling?
Oh wow. So this is a kind of a funny story. The club I used to do taekwondo at, we did these big sort of like summer camp events in the middle of the year, and they would get a bunch of guest coaches in to teach little sort of mini seminars. And one of the guys that taught a mini seminar was one of Nathan's students. He was someone that trained under Nathan, and he did this little mini grappling seminar, and I kind of got a little bit hooked on it. But then a little bit later on, a gym in Leicester, sort of that was related to the Taekwondo club that I was at, they held their own miniature, slightly weird rules kind of MMA event. And it was sort of, they were trying to bridge between traditional martial arts and MMA. They were sort of trying to like catch the wave of MMA as it was coming through the country
Right.
kind of thing. And one club turned up and won every single match at this event. And I found out what that club was, and it was Leicester Shoe Fighters. And I was like, right, okay, I've seen
Yo.
one guy on a seminar who's trained under this guy, and then I've seen a couple of students from this club turn up and just wreck house at this tournament.
Bro, I tell people, they'd be like, so what's Leicester Shoot Fighters like? And I'd be like, honestly, I was like, they're pretty fucking rough, bro. They get down with the hands and they get down on the ground. I was like, it honestly, I said, and this I've told people this. This is not, I'm not saying this for you. I said it's like Ralph Gracie's early reputation, the school's rep. Like everybody knew if Ralph Gracie showed up, people were getting tapped out. You know what I'm saying? People were getting tapped out. I remember I was talking to a guy in Leeds and he said, "Where's your next seminar at?" I said, "Leicester Shoot Fighters." He looked at me and goes, "Those guys are fucking tough. They're motherfucking tough." I was cold in Scottish
It's
accent.
cool.
It's as close as I could get. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. It's
But
strange
yeah,
though, man, because because I've been here for such a long time now, I kind of got into MMA as it was still in that, or got into the gym here, but when it was still kind of like not early days of MMA, but everything was still very grassroots, is what I would say. Like there was a lot of like grassroots training going on, guys coming in from other martial arts into jiu-jitsu and into MMA from other stuff. Lots of guys come in, like a lot of older guys that were just guys that have been in martial arts for a long time and then had kind of fallen into this. Whereas now the whole generation of guys in the gym is all much, much younger. They're coming in because they know what jiu-jitsu is. There's not that kind of, back in the day, it used to be you were doing jiu-jitsu. Yeah, you were doing jiu-jitsu because you were going to fight MMA. That's why you
yeah,
did jiu-jitsu.
yeah,
But
yeah.
now there's guys that they get into jiu-jitsu just to do jiu-jitsu now. Like it's a massive change, massive change.
Um, before we continue, I need you to help people with something because I'm a lot older than you, right? I'm 55, all right? And when I was young, shoot fighting was a common term. It's one of the first terms I knew. This guy does jujitsu. This guy's a shoot fighter. This right? Like, what is shoot fighting? Because to an American, that's the only thing that they know
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Like, I can see sometimes when I come in and I'm wearing one of your sweaters, people will be like, I can see them like talking to them, but like, is he have a gun? Is he? What is this? Right? So, will you explain what shoot fighting is for people that don't know what it is?
Yeah, sure. It's basically just a really old school term for MMA. That's pretty much all it is, really. Like back when, I mean, I get asked this question quite a lot when we have guys visit or come from other gyms. There's a lot of gyms in this country that have shoot fighters in the name. So
Yeah.
there's a famous one in London. There's one in Sheffield. There's gyms all over the country have got shoot fighters in the name, and we're not related to each other in any way. It's
Right.
literally just another phrase for MMA. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just another phrase for MMA. So, and because back in the day, like I said, all gyms that were doing jiu-jitsu were basically MMA gyms, really. If you were doing no
yeah.
somewhere, it was an MMA
And they would
gym,
have been
right?
considered NHB. See, a lot of people forget
Yeah.
in America where you did NHB, no holds barred, which implied we're doing what we want to do here, right? You know what I mean? And NHB was just an acronym for the Brazilian term vale tudo, which means anything, right? And so, no, thank you for sharing that because the first person that I knew to use that term was Ken Shamrock. That's the first American. That's the first time it's like he's a shoot fighter, and they were like, shoot fighting is from Japan, and I was like, no kidding. And so, I wrote for a magazine called Vale Tudo News. That was the first jiu-jitsu and martial arts writing or modern, right? Was Vale Tudo News, and there were shoot fighters always in that, and most of those shoot fighters were from Japan, right? But it makes complete sense that shoot fighting would have blown up in the UK, and I understand what you mean. Like we're not related teams, but we do the same thing,
Yeah, we've all just got the same name, basically. I think, like, if a gym has shoot fighting in the name or shoot fighters in the name, you can guarantee it's either got an MMA base or if you do jiu-jitsu there, it's probably going to be no gi jiu-jitsu. Not that they won't have gi jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, but they probably won't. It'll be no gi and it'll be punching and kicking, right?
Yeah.
So can you tell me, with the level of respect that everybody has for your school, that everybody has for your team, that everybody understands, like I said, when I was in Leeds, they were like, be ready, those dudes are G's. What do you attribute between Nathan's vision and training and who are some of the fighters that people would know? from who, you know what I'm saying?
So you're going back a little bit now, and like slight aside to your question, which I will answer, but slight
Yeah,
aside
of
to your question. The gym gone through phases over the years,
course.
and like a lot of because you got to think like any guys that are running a gym now, especially a bigger like a big well-established gym, they've been in the game for a long time. So
Yeah.
they would have been around at the time when Nathan was running a pro team, was running an
Yeah.
MMA team. So a lot of the reputation, it's fair to say, does just come from that time because
Right.
reputation sticks around, right? That's what happens.
Right, right,
And
right.
it's not in any way not deserved. It's just it comes from a previous time
It
kind of thing.
comes from
So
a legacy. Yeah.
yeah, at the moment we don't even have any active MMA fights in the gym currently at the moment.
Right. It's
It's
just
just not where
training. And it's
yeah, it's
lots
just
of
not
people.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just not where the gym's at the moment, and there's nothing wrong with it, but either side of those things. But so back in the day, Nathan was sort of was involved with the coaching and was the grappling coach for guys like Jimmy Wallhead, like he's probably one of the most well known.
Yeah.
Dan Hardy being like
Dan
the big
Hardy.
name that gets
Yeah. Yeah.
referenced a lot.
UFC,
Um,
Mohawk guy, handling business.
yeah, yeah. There's a number of other guys. Like when I first came down here for my first ever trial class, I walked in through the doors, just pure coincidence to them finishing a pro training session, and there was guys on the mats that I'd seen on TV, and that was just mind blowing for me. That was
Yeah. You were
amazing.
like,
Yeah,
what? You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. That was really cool. Really cool.
So, um, let me ask you, when you started jujitsu, did you think you were going to be a black belt? Did you know it? Because I didn't. I was just training and trying to tread water. I just didn't want to be somebody who quit. And I knew that I was around great people. So I was like, this shit works. And not everybody has access to what I have access to. But I didn't think I was good enough. I just kept coming back despite my mediocrity. And then I ended up with a black belt. I never thought I would be good enough. Did you have the vision for that?
I think you'll have the same opinion as me on this one. When you first start, obviously, like let's say your first 6 months of jiu-jitsu, you don't even know what's going on. You got no idea what's happening. Like you just don't understand anything, right? But then you get through, you say like your first 2 years, maybe you're creeping up, and maybe you get your blue belt, right?
Right.
And you roll at some point, if you're fortunate, at some point in that time, you'll roll with a black belt. And what they do seems like witchcraft and sorcery. And you
Oh
just
my
don't have
God.
any idea what's going on. And so to envision how you're going to get from where you are to where they are, literally seems impossible. Like,
No,
seems
it
impossible.
does. It absolutely does. You know, I was on I know a lot of people use Chat GPT. I use Claude.ai,
Yeah, yeah,
Claude. I use Claude a lot. Claude's amazing. I started playing between Chat GPT and Claude, but I asked Claude a while ago, how many people get to their black belt after starting? They said between 1% and 3% of those who start. I was really, I mean, I guess I can't say it's that shocking, but dude, that is a steep gradient, my friend.
yeah. That's a smaller number, isn't it? Small number than you'd expect. Yeah. And it also makes you look around and go, how the hell am I in that 1%? How did I know?
Every day,
What did I do?
every day.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. And
Yeah.
you know, it's funny. One of my purple belt students, I was like, oh, you know what? Back in 2000, I used to pass the guard like this. And then he was like, this dude has forgotten more jujitsu than most of us will learn. And I was like, he's right. I've been,
Yep.
oh, yeah. The
And
old
it's just a function of you've been
2009
around it.
open
Yeah.
guard.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
Like
hilarious.
there's a famous Chris Houghton quote. It's not who's good, it's who's left. It's just the
Hey,
guys that stick
and that's
around,
the
you know.
deal, bro. That's the deal.
Yeah, so I think for me it was definitely a case of I just enjoy doing it so much. I was going to do it long enough anyway. Like if I hadn't been awarded my black belt, so it's December just gone was a year.
Yeah.
So what, we're talking about 18 months now, about 18 months.
Yeah.
If I hadn't been given it 18 months ago, it's not like I wasn't going to be training. Like I still be getting on the mats tonight and rolling. Like it makes no difference.
Right.
So
Nothing changes, right?
yeah, it was going to arrive at some point. It's just, you know.
Can you tell me about the first time you competed and what that felt like and what you actually experienced?
Oh man, yeah. So the first time I did a competitive match would have been in the gym in an in-house tournament.
In-house.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember I had 3 matches that day, and I remember the 3 people it was against as well. Right, I got shockingly good memory for this for someone who gets choked on a daily basis, right? So My first match was against a guy called Jake. Jake Constantino. Any of the guys like been around for a long time in the gym at Shoot Fighters will know who that is. Big Jake. He guillotined me in about 12 seconds.
Mm,
Standing guillotine. Just
yeah.
absolutely just rinsed me straight away. My second match, oh, his name's escaping me. My second match, I lost on points, and it was basically me and another white belt bridging and rolling each other to death, like just upper
Yeah.
escapes and to death.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and my third match was Nayan, who I've just recently awarded a purple belt to because he kind of stepped out of jiu-jitsu for a while and then stepped
That
back
was
in.
me. I was him. You know what I mean? I would step out,
Yeah,
come
yeah.
back, step out, come back. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like a really good striker. He's been in the game a long time. But he sort of circled back to jiu-jitsu about a year and a half ago. He's put loads of time in, so I awarded him his purple. But he beat my ass 16-0 in my first ever tournament. 16-0, he beat my ass.
Can I just say, first of all, thank you for sharing that experience. When I rolled in my first competition, I fought in the Gracie Open, the first one, the inaugural, and got bodied. People who know me, among other things, know that the Ezekiel was my default setting. BJ Penn's brother, JD, he used to call me the flying Ezekiel. As soon as I would slap and bump with someone, he'd be like, watch out, bruh. He's gonna Ezekiel you. Because he knew no matter what position I ended up with, whoosh-ow, I was dropping weights on you. You know what I'm saying? But like, I went there and Half gives me the nod, like, he looks at me, I walk out, I shake hands, I look at him, and he goes like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, do your job, homie. And I'm like, word. I get into the thing. It's a back and forth. I'm in bottom half. And I have never been in bottom half before, like consciously. I'm in white belt. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm kind of looking around like, what the hell? And everybody's yelling. I wasn't used to the noise. I'm so introverted, you know, because you're used to the quiet gym. Everybody's like, go, dive. And I'm like, you talking to him? You talking? I didn't have a sense of what the hell was going on. And as I'm looking around, I was up on points, and the guy caught this one, and he went all the way, bro.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, ah! And then, like, dude, I couldn't use my shoulder for like 4 months.
Ooh.
I was out. This thing probably needed real work, honestly.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know because I'm just a white belt who just was happy. Hey, I'm happy to be here.
Put some tape on it and get back to training, right?
Yeah. So I'm out. I remember I went to my cousin's event and they were playing football outside. So it's like, hey, they bounce. Oh, throw it to me. And I forgot. And I take it and I throw it. Ah! I was like, oh my Lord. So much pain, dude. I don't think people understand what you have to weather to get to the learning of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
It's a lot. You know, it's a lot. Lots of loss, lots of physical pain, lots of not knowing, right? Like not knowing, like, I don't know what to do from here. I don't know why they got to my back. I don't know why my arm is stuck, right? Why my leg can't escape. I mean, so much not knowing. So in that not knowing, what kept you coming back?
I think, I don't know, it's maybe a bit of a cliche, like played out way to describe jiu-jitsu, but it is basically just a massive puzzle, right?
Yeah.
It's just a huge puzzle. And like, I'm a bit of a nerd, bit of a geek. I like solving puzzles. And so that's basically what keeps you coming back. Although I do think as you go through, I mean, it's like a progression thing, but I think belts is like an easy way to like separate that. It's just easier to visualize, right? So, you know, you start with a white belt and just getting your first taps on an open mat, you know, like the first time you tap someone, the first time you hit a sweep, you know, when you start to understand what that purple belt is talking about, because purple belts know everything when you're a white belt.
Yeah, purple belts are just like,
right? Yeah, you can't even approach a purple belt when you're a
like
white belt.
Houdinis.
Yeah. So hitting something they've told you to, something they've shown you, you catch it on a roll, and they see you hit it, like all that stuff's awesome, and that keeps you coming back in. But then I think when you get to that, you know, maybe purple, late purple, hitting your brown belt phase, you start to get really addicted to like small details, I think. So like if someone shows me a cool little tiny detail on something I already know now, I'll nerd out about that shit for days. Like I love that. Like I'll be telling people when they walk in the door at the gym, like, I got to show you this cool thing. And I'll show it to them and they'll be like, dude, you moved your hand like 2 inches. Who cares? And I'm like,
and you're like, no.
Yeah, it is important. And we're all going to talk about this for 45 minutes on the class, right? Sit down and shut up. Okay, we're going to talk about this. So I think the small details get you as you get more experienced.
Yeah.
But it's basically just a big puzzle. And I think I'm stealing a Marcelo quote here. I think I'm stealing a Marcelo quote. But basically, like, it's like I've got a really cool toy that I want to play with. And it's a two-player toy. But I have to show you how to use the toy before we can both play with this toy together. So I have to teach you all the cool shit before we can play it, right? It's, you know, your most fun rolls are with guys that are also really, really good at jiu-jitsu. It's not saying you can't have a fun roll with someone that's less experienced, but having a fun roll with a white belt is tough because they just don't know all the cool shit that could be done.
Yeah, they don't know that you made a mistake, right?
Yeah,
You can make a mistake, and they're so busy hopping around and happy to just be around you, and you're like, oh my God, he almost could have took my back off that.
Yep. Yeah, and it would have been cooler if he did. Like, it would have been more fun if he did.
Right, because
like,
now you're like, what's up?
Yeah, we could have done some cool shit back and forth. But so I think that's one of, like, it's a cool puzzle to solve, but also you get to share that puzzle with someone else, and then you get to solve the puzzle together. And like, you're not going to be doing jiu-jitsu for 50 years if you're doing it on your own, right? Like, it's doing it with other people as well. Those are the two coolest things, you know, solving the puzzle but sharing it with someone else.
So two quick things. Tim Spriggs, we were having a conversation, I think, one day from the Lloyd Irvin team, and he said, I think he said something like, passing the closed guard is like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube that's trying to kill you.
Yeah.
That's a badass quote, bro.
That's a famous quote, that is. I've heard on that one before, yeah.
I love that. It's so real. Right? And then what else? You said something else. I too was addicted to the learning. I didn't care if I got armbarred, choked, and slammed as long as I understood why. I literally didn't care. I did not care. As long as I knew why. Oh, so if I turn right, gable grip this way, not that way. I was addicted to that as a nerd, not as like a fighter, because I wasn't a fighter. You know what I mean? So now let me ask you, when you got your black belt, this is important to me. I'm trying to document more of this. Tell me about the day you got your black belt. Did you expect it? And what did it actually feel like when you received it?
It was an interesting day to get my black belt because it was sort of, I mean, it is huge milestone, right? Of course, huge milestone. Something I've worked on for 15 years. It's this, well, I think it would have been 14 years. It's the second black belt that I've received, which is pretty cool. Because I have a black belt in Taekwondo as well. Yeah, like, amazing milestone, amazing. However, I'd also known for a few months that it was coming. And I had what pretty much every black belt that I've spoken to since has said, the same experience, which is you get the black belt, and then 20 minutes later, you're back on the mats rolling and training and trying to figure shit out like you were before you got the black belt. So there's almost like an anticlimactic kind of point to it. But basically, I'd had my brown belt for a while. I'd had very regular discussions with my coach, Nathan. We talked back and forth about what I needed to do to jump the gap and actually like solidify my black belt. Anyone that knows him knows he's a tough guy to get a belt from. He's a stickler, like he's a tough dude. So getting a belt from him was going to be tough. And although he trained a lot of people over the years up to incredibly high levels, a lot of them way further along the progression than me. So there's a lot of guys over the years that are very, very good, much better than myself. Nathan had never actually handed out a black belt to anyone. He'd never done it. A lot of guys had basically progressed up to a certain point and then like left the city, gone started their own gyms, moved on to other places. So he'd never handed one out. And also, funnily enough, Nathan couldn't hand out a black belt because he himself is only, technically speaking, a first-degree black belt. And as you know, you've got to be a second-degree black belt to hand out black belts, right? So it was just a weird set of circumstances under me getting my belt. So technically speaking, my belt is actually under Luke Spencer from Essex. So Luke's a really good friend of mine. And Luke started jiu-jitsu under Nathan. I think he got to purple belt under Nathan, then he moved to London. I could be wrong there, but he moved away after a few years of training with him. Trained somewhere else for a few years. Luke eventually got his black, got to his second degree black. And then the first black belt that Luke handed out was to come back to Leicester and give Nathan his black belt officially. So it's like a really cool circle of...
Oh, that is beautiful.
How cool is that, right? And I was here for it as well. It was a really, really cool moment to witness and be part of. Luke officially gave me a brown belt as well to sort of like put me as an official...
Yeah.
You've got your brown belt now. Now in a few years, you'll get your black. And then, yeah, December, year before last, Luke came up and handed me mine. So Luke coming up kind of gave the game away. Like I knew that Luke was coming up to give me my black belt. I was handing out some belts that day myself, so I was grading a couple of guys. I think I was giving out a couple of purple belts that day.
Yeah.
So we did the grading. I handed out the purple belts. Nathan came on and said, did a bit of a speech about him giving me my black, which immediately made me cry in front of a bunch of people. Yeah, he got me straight away and straight in the feels immediately. And yeah, handed my black. And then within about 20 minutes of getting my black belt, we'd done all the photos, a bunch of people gave me a hug. It was really cool. I did a little speech, which was basically a 30-second me trying to not cry and say thank you. Even though,
30
even though I
seconds
had a whole
of trying to not cry.
yeah, I had a whole speech planned in my head, and I didn't say any of it. I completely forgot it all.
I'm gonna thank, and then you get up to
yeah, yeah, that was pretty much it. Yeah. But then 10 minutes later, we had an open mat run in. I was on the mat. I was rolling with Luke after he awarded me my belt. Nathan was watching, giving me feedback. I was straight back in the whole white belt mindset. You know, I was back on the mat rolling straight away. And that was probably the coolest bit of getting it. It was very cool to get the belt, have the recognition, and then get straight back to work, man. Because what else are we on the mats for, you know? Like,
that's fucking badass, man. I remember crying the day after. I remember not believing it when I got it.
yeah.
I didn't know it was coming. And I remember like I woke up the next morning and it was next to my pillow, kind of hanging off the floor. And I remember you like, it wasn't a dream, and then crying.
Yeah,
like 10 seconds, like, and you just remember all the fucking shit you've been through, all the injuries, all the fucking mauled fucking comps where you got killed, you know, a few where you did awesome. It was very deep, man. It was very deep.
I told one of my students that I gave a purple belt to, sort of middle of last year. I said to them like, oh, you know, when I got my black belt, I had this whole speech planned in my head, and I never said any of it. And he goes, oh, what was the speech? What was it? Like, you got to say it now. Now you've told us, you got to say it. And I said, well, look, there was really only two parts to it. And I said, the first part was to say that if I can get this belt, anyone can get this belt. Like, I'm not very tall. I'm not very strong. I'm not very fast. I'm not very athletic. I'm just enough of a
you weren't
nerd.
athletic though.
I don't know, not particularly.
You're
Like
fucking strong, dog. And you got a good
no one's looking at me for like a sports team or anything anytime soon. But
not
like
athletic.
the first,
bicep, tricep.
I don't know. You squeeze people long enough, you build some muscle eventually, whether you want it or not. You know? But the first thing was, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And then the second thought was, I fucking earned this belt. Like, I put the time and I earned this thing. Like, anyone can do it, but fuck me, was it hard work and I did it and I earned it. Like, it's true.
So,
it's true.
I remember some point, I think last year, I awarded either a belt or a stripe to a kid at Half Gracie Santa Clara. And the kid came up to me and he said, thank you for giving me a stripe, or thank you for giving me my belt. And I said, I don't give belts. You earn that belt.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody earns their belt in jiu-jitsu. Everybody earns their stripe. Like, I don't give belts. I don't, you know, award, right? It's an achievement. Because if you weren't here, I wouldn't give it to you, right? Like, yeah. I'm not really giving it. I'm awarding you what you have earned. Like, I'm not oh, what's up? I got stripes. Anybody need a stripe out here? That's not what I'm
yeah.
You know what I mean? So no, I totally understand that. Now here's a question I've been struggling with. And so it's always going to come up with different people. Does jiu-jitsu make you a better person? Yes or no, and why or why not?
Wow, that's a tough question. Like, instinctively, I want to say yes, because I want it to be true. But unfortunately, there is a hefty amount of proof otherwise, I think.
What do you think is this chasm of that I believe is immorality and character mixed in with like actual skill? It seems it's so disappointing. Or is it just a byproduct of an expanding reality that maybe I think as an American coming up with Karate Kid, the Kung Fu TV show, and things like that that there's this kind of default setting that your jujitsu, that your martial arts teacher is also wise and wants good things for you, coming up with Bruce Lee flicks, different kung fu movies, you know what I'm saying? Jet Li, all that. Like, you think that your teacher is a moral person, or is instinctually a moral person, instinctually actually cares about other. And then like there's all kind of scandals over here, and then there's rumors over there, and then that place shut down, and this person's going to jail now, and you're like, how is this jujitsu? But it really is, and it bothers
let me
me, it saddens me.
let me answer your question with kind of a. It's not to deflect the question, but let me ask
Yeah.
you a question. Right?
Go.
Would you be asking the question if we were talking? The question is, does jujitsu make you a good person? Would you ask that question if the sport that we were talking about was table tennis and not jujitsu?
No, because martial arts, at least in the West, I believe, comes with an inherent stereotype about moral goodness coming with the skill, that it comes in pairs. You will learn how to fight,
Right,
you'll be a better person, right? No one says,
right?
I haven't heard anyone say, because I did table tennis, but they probably did, right? The sport, the challenge of the sports probably did, but I think that this stereotype creates a false expectation of morality and goodness in the space of martial arts that just isn't there, at least in America. I don't know about the UK. I just know.
Well, so this is the thing. This is kind of the kind of what I'm driving at is the stereotype that things like discipline and like morality and ethics and stuff like that that are naturally linked to martial arts. Is that stereotype accurate or not? Because increasingly, as like I've gone through my jiu-jitsu journey, and like, to be honest, my martial arts journey, right? So I'm 32. I started martial arts when I was 6 years old.
Right.
So I've been in the game a long time, like a very long time. And I've gone through a traditional martial art where dignity and like, you know, your coach being a moral compass and things like that was like baked into what you were doing. Like that was just, that was an assumption. That was an assumption, you know.
Yeah, it was just part of the path, right?
Yeah, how do you sell martial arts to kids? It's discipline and all this kind of stuff, right? To now, where I'm coaching jiu-jitsu as a sport to guys that have only ever seen martial arts as a sport. They've watched MMA, they've seen sport jiu-jitsu, and that's it. Like, they've not watched the Bruce Lee films. You know, they've not seen these things.
This could be a generational impact, right? I think to your point, I think you're making a good point. Yeah.
So then I think to the guys that are coming up now, you know, I talk to any of the guys, you know, some of my blue belts that have been doing jiu-jitsu for 2 years, right? Like, I'd like to think they're good people, and I'd like to think them hanging around me and being in this gym is making them a better person. But realistically speaking, they're coming in and doing somewhere between like 2 and 10 hours of a sport with me. If that sport was table tennis, would I be asking myself if they're good people or not? Would it be any of my concern?
You know what, though? But you know what the difference is? The likelihood, or even the ability, the practical ability of that table tennis guy to go out in the street and harm another human, especially a woman or an elderly person or someone of a different race, culture, religion, right? Gender identity, is almost zero. But this guy, after training with you or after training with me, is actually kind of dangerous, could be, right? And so that's where it comes in. Right, like for me,
as we're talking about it, it's starting to sound like I'm advocating that we shouldn't be thinking of like morals and ethics.
I think you're making the point that
it should, and I think it's been lost. That's the problem, right?
Yeah,
I think some guys are looking at what we do as just a sport, and I would argue that 90% of the time that's fine. That is fine. Right? You want to get better at jiu-jitsu, you want to tap people at the next grappling industries. Yeah, you don't have to worry about your morals quite so much as you have to worry about your double leg defense, right? Your guard retention is more important, right? But at the same time, if all you take away from you do martial arts for 20 years, and all you take away is a half decent armbar and how to escape side control, you fucking missed the point. Like, you missed the point. There's a lot of stuff that you just didn't take away with you that you could have done, you should have done, and that you're arguably not going to get from some of the physical activity. You know, me and you could go play basketball. You'd kick my ass naturally because you're about a foot.
No, I'm horrible. I'm shockingly horrible. You might slam dunk on me. You would be shocked.
Dude, look how short I am. I'm slam dunking on nobody. Come on.
The
You
tall
have to
black
give me a step
stereotype has limits. That's all I'm saying.
yeah, true. But I don't think that it's discussed enough that yes, we are working on skills that have an inherent, I want to say danger, but you know, like my ability to whack a table tennis ball. Yeah, table tennis ball.
Yeah.
My ability to do that compared to my ability to choke you unconscious and you not be able to stop it. They should have a different impact on our lives, right? That should have a different impact. It should.
Well, you know, I think you're right. And I struggle with this. I struggle with this because if I'm honest about me, right? If I'm honest about me, growing up on Mr. Miyagi, growing up on Bruce Lee, right? Not just the movie person, but the actual human, right? Um, Reading Miyamoto Musashi, and things like that really made me aspire to elevate my brain with my martial arts pursuits, right? And I've always thought specifically that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu suffers from a lack of philosophy and a lack of a moral philosophical center. And so that's why I started going on to read Musashi, read the Hagakure, right, by Yamamoto Tsunetomo. That's like, if you've ever seen the movie Ghost Dog, that's the book that they're reading. I didn't even know that book existed until I saw Ghost Dog, and I only watched Ghost Dog because RZA was in the end of it for like 7 seconds. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, what? The Hagakure? I go get it. I'm like, oh my God. I thought I knew Japanese war philosophy, and I'm reading Sun Tzu and all this stuff to try to make up for what I think is missing in jiu-jitsu, only to later find out that very few people in jiu-jitsu cared about that shit. It was only very few people. But then what do? We know, look, when I was coming up, the general statement was if you did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 6 months, that you could beat a traditional black martial arts black belt from almost any other style. That was the promise back in the day. And I remember being about 10 months in, going to a judo gym and tapping out one of the instructors as a white belt at Half Gracie. I remember that. And I remember going like, right? And I remember how mad they were actually too. Like I actually got a little hostile. I'll tell that story another day. But what my point is this. Who's that guy? Jordan Peterson, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, he's like, well, what you want to do is you want to be a monster, see? And then what? You want to control it, you see? You want to be an absolute monster and control it. And I'm like, if I can make a monster in 6 months, but I can't raise your moral compass to the same degree that I can make you dangerous, what am I doing? What am I doing? I don't know the answer to that. What are your thoughts?
It's a good question, man. I don't know. I think one of the problems, again, this is a slight diversion of topic, but you'll see where I'm going with this. I think one of the common problems, like we all know this now as well, is that if you have a black belt in jiu-jitsu, you could be, and often we've seen it happen plenty of times, you almost get viewed as like an authority on everything. So you'll visit a club, and at the end of the class, the coach does his little 5-minute talk at the end. Dude's giving out advice on investing in Bitcoin or something, or like marriage advice. You're a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Stay on topic, right? I want to hear your opinions on arm bars. I don't want to hear your opinions on anything else. If you're not qualified, shut the fuck up, right? But the problem with that is that dude could make you really good at arm bars, but he might not make you a better person while doing it. But is he qualified to make you a better person? Should he be qualified to make you a better person? I don't know. Like, how many guys have you had come to you? I mean, I've seen it happen when you've been here for seminars. How many guys have come and spoken to you after you've taught or before class or outside of class, talking to you about personal problems?
Woo!
Like I have it on a weekly basis. Someone will come and talk to me about a personal problem they have. I'm not a qualified therapist. Like I can give you my opinion, but I'm 32. I know nothing. Like I've got less life experience than almost anyone that walks through the door. Like I'm not qualified to tell you anything other than how to get better at jiu-jitsu without a gi on. After that, you should stop listening to me. Like I have no opinion after that. Like and you shouldn't pay attention to me, right? But should I be expected, or am I equipped to help make you a better person? And should I hold myself to that standard? Now, I think I should. I think I should. But does that mean I'm doing a good job of it? Does that mean I know how to do it? Does that mean someone else isn't better equipped to do it? I don't know. I don't know. It's a tough question, man. It is a tough
No,
question.
dude. This is a thing, man. And it's gonna be something that I always struggle with in the sport, especially whenever there's a new scandal, whenever there's a new kind of like abuse of power, whenever some student ends up going to jail for some crazy stuff, and you're like, damn, you know what I mean? Like, how could this person be that way? Right. And I think that, like, I had a friend who he did Kyokushin karate, the really hardcore Masoyama, get knocked out, be on the stretcher karate, right? In New York City in the 70s and 80s when no one cared what happened to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No health and safety in the gym back then, man. Nope.
And so I asked him, I was like, this was like Masoyama, the creator of the style, told this guy to go to New York and set up. And he did. And then this guy went and trained with Masoyama's, prodigy. I said, did they ever teach you philosophy? And he was like, no. They just made you fight. And you would just fight. And he said you would be fighting, and him and another guy, the instructor and another guy would have canes. So me and you were squaring up. Boom, boom, boom. They're hitting them with canes while they fight. Just so you're focused, like you're getting cracked on the back, but I can't even acknowledge that I just got hit with a cane. I gotta take the guy out, right? So he's like, there was no philosophy. You just fought. And the idea was the training gives you whatever you're supposed to get. There's not going to be any speeches. Nobody's asking you to quote the Tao Te Ching, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was it. And so I guess Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or MMA or no-gi will make you as moral as you seek. Maybe that's it. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like
I agree. Like I've heard it said before that like if you get really, really good at a martial art, but jiu-jitsu is the one that like commonly gets referenced and is what both me and you do. But you get really good at jiu-jitsu, it will basically magnify whatever you've got going on already. So if you're a great person, it might make you a better person. If you're an asshole, it's going to make you an asshole with superpowers. Great. Like it's going to make you worse. That's a potential because now you know. Like if you're a black belt and you get in a grappling based altercation with 99% people, you're not even going to have to come out of second gear unless that guy's twice your size or something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think being a blue belt in jiu-jitsu means you can beat every person in a street fight. That's a ridiculous idea. But my God, does it equip you pretty
You're pretty dangerous, though, to the average Joe.
100%, right? But I think when it comes to wondering whether or not it's the coach's responsibility, or if it's something that like you can even directly influence you yourself as a coach, the guy running the mat, the black belt at the front. I think the best way you can influence it is by just creating a really good culture in your room, a really good culture. Because I think about it like this, right? Let's say I teach a class. Let's say my class tonight, I've got 30 people on the session. And at the end of the class, I do like a little 3 to 5 minute talk on this kind of topic. Maybe I throw out some like daily stoic quote or something. I get my realist out. I read from the book. I hit them with some scripture, right? I give them some cool lesson. That's great. That is great. And maybe 1 or 2 people in that room pick up on that and it hits them just right that day. I'm definitely not saying there's no benefit to that. 100% there is, right? And people are going to listen to you because you're the guy at the front. Fair enough. Is it going to have as much impact as the room that they're in that day? Those 30 people they're in, not just you, the guy at the front, but the 30 people they're sharing the mat with.
Right.
sharing a good struggle, being in a mixed room. You know what I mean? Like, how many different kinds of people have you trained with over the years? Fucking millions, right?
For
Different
real.
races, religions, beliefs, genders,
Political, political
everything,
perspectives. Yeah.
everything, right? And you basically realize 99% of us are all the same. We're all sharing the same struggle. We're trying to get that knee cup pass to work a little better. Like, we're all doing the same shit at the same time, right? And then we're all going on, we're all going to get choked unless you're
Yeah.
the best guy in the room. So you're getting your
Yeah.
ass kicked by someone that day, right? And you're going to
Yeah.
get humbled at some point, right? I think having a great culture like that and sharing that experience all together as a group probably has more impact than the 3 minutes of wisdom from the
That
dude
you
sitting at the
flip on
front,
at the end.
you know, like, but that's not to say the guy sitting at the front is responsible for creating that culture. Like, that's something I take really seriously as a coach. Like, my direct impact on you as an individual, that's tough to measure. My impact on the room and the room I create and
In the
how I allow that
responsibility
room
that
to
you have
be,
in that moment. Yeah.
that's a huge responsibility. And arguably, that's a lot harder because you're managing a community now. Managing one person, man, you can see what that person's doing. You can speak to that person directly. Managing a community, dude, that's juggling chainsaws. Things can go wrong like immediately. Like, they go wrong fast and it can be out of your control. That's tough. That's tough.
No, you're making some really good points, man. And then I think it was the guy that I was talking to with who has a black belt in Kyokushin and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu,
Dude,
right?
that's a bad motherfucker, that is.
You don't want it standing, you don't want it on the ground.
Nope.
He's a weapon. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think it was me and him, and I want to know if you agree with this concept. I think it was him. If it's somebody else, forgive me. They said, if you look at the martial arts that are strong on philosophy, like let's say Okinawan karate, let's say Kung Fu, specifically, he goes, if you look at them and weigh them against martial arts without inherent philosophies, boxing, wrestling, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, he says Muay Thai, right? He says all of the sports without a philosophy are way more dangerous than the ones that have them. I was like, right? So what is that? What is that?
I think that's true. I think that's true. I think if you're, I mean, maybe it's just a byproduct of, I mean, you could say maybe it's what they focus their time on, right? Like, if I go to a martial arts club and they spend half their time talking about discipline and half their time training, and I go to another martial arts club and they spend all their time training, well, they're getting 50% more training time. Like, it could just be a basic, like a statistical thing, right? I don't know though, man, because I think that this is kind of what I was getting at with the whole sport. Like, are we considering jiu-jitsu a martial art or a sport, right? Because no one's discussing the moral implications and the moral sort of foundation of wrestling. No one cares that, like, the best Greco-Roman team in the world aren't talking about stoicism after training. Maybe they are, but no one gives a shit, right? They don't care. They just care whether or not those guys are getting into the Olympics and taking medals.
Yeah,
That's all they
exactly.
care, right?
How is he doing that?
Yeah.
How is he stopping that double leg?
Yeah, exactly, right. That's all they're discussing. And no one expects them. But how is wrestling not a martial art? Wrestling's as much a martial art as any other combat sport, right?
Period.
By a long way. But if you go
Probably
off
the
to
first.
something, yeah, you go off to something like karate where they're talking about discipline and all these kind of like moral implications of it being a traditional martial art. Suddenly it becomes important. Like, suddenly people care about it. It's a weird split, right? But we all know, do you want to fight that guy who's done 10 years of karate with all his, knuckle push-ups on the floor and stuff, and all his forms and his katas and stuff? Or do you want to fight that guy who's done 10 years of Greco? And he's got cauliflower ear and like a neck 20 inches around. Like, I know which guy I want to be locked in a room with if I have to fight to get out, right?
Oh my God. So now let me ask you this. Are there any books, religious, philosophical, or even like not real books? It could be some Hobbit type shit. What books if any, have influenced you as a martial artist and or a martial arts instructor?
Man, I'm going to betray myself here a little bit. I'm terrible when it comes to reading and keeping up with
No,
stuff.
that's fine. But this is
Terrible.
part of my point because I really like you as a person. I find you incredibly intelligent and kind. So this isn't a test. I'm just trying to learn about you.
Well, I'm gonna have to pay that compliment back with a sneaky compliment of my own, right? So while I don't get to read it, I'm like there's a book I'm reading at the moment that I just think kind of I think does apply to a lot of what we're talking about in a strange roundabout way. And it's a book called Will It Make the Boat Go Faster? So it was written by a guy that won the I think it was the 2000 British rowing championships. Oh no,
Okay.
no, he's on the British team for the Olympics. Sorry,
Okay.
and the team had lost like 7, 8 years in a row. They hadn't placed, they hadn't medaled or anything, and then they basically overhauled how they viewed everything, overhauled how they approached everything, and came back and won the Olympics. Right,
Right.
and it's really, really interesting story. And basically, they just whenever they were deciding something in their training or in their nutrition or in how their mental game, anything, they just always ask themselves the question as a group, will this make the boat go faster? And
Mm,
that's a cool approach to take to things. But in terms of like influencing my philosophy of teaching and things like that, I spend most of my time listening to people rather than reading books. I listen to your
yeah.
podcasts. I listen to you a lot. I listen to podcasts with certain guys that I'm a big fan of. I listen to a lot
What
of
podcasts are you fans of? What are some of the podcasts that you like? That
so
movie.
it's not necessarily podcasts. I'll follow a person through different
Right.
podcasts.
Right.
So like I've listened to a bunch where you've been talking to different people.
Right.
Like a
Thank
coach
you.
that I'm a
Thank
big
you.
fan of. Oh, no, you're welcome. Like it's made a difference to how I view things. It makes a difference to how I think about things.
Yeah.
I've listened to there's John Will, the Australian coach. So he's one of the
Okay.
dirty dozen. Yeah. So
Yeah.
he's done a
Yeah.
few different podcasts. He's been on a few different podcasts. I've listened to all of those. It's
Yeah.
things like that. I'd rather listen to guys talk and listen to them get deep into a conversation like we're doing right now and
Yeah.
really like dig deep on a couple of thoughts rather than read a book. But only because when it comes to reading a book, that's often just a snapshot of where that person is at the time.
True.
Whereas if I can listen to you talk over the period of 10 years, I can listen to how your views have changed,
Right.
what new things
Observe
have picked
the.
up. Yeah, really importantly, what things haven't changed. Because if something stayed the same in that period, man, that's probably some pretty important shit, right? Like that's
Yeah.
something
He's still holding on to
it's
that.
stood the
That's
test.
working for him. Yeah.
It's stood the test of time. So that's the kind of stuff that is probably as useful to hear as whatever it is that you're currently thinking about, is what you were thinking about 10 years ago that you're still thinking about now. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool, right?
No, that's
So I
real.
probably listen to people more often than I read, and I should read more. And it's just, I'm too
You know,
busy doing jujitsu, you know.
I can't lie. Like, my whole life, I was a savage reader. I was really good at it. You know what I mean? At some point, I think you feel like you know enough, whatever that's supposed to mean, and you kind of chill. And then about 5 years ago, I got back into it really deep. And I used to kind of frown on audiobooks because I'm a highlighter. If anybody sees a book that I own, it's got highlights all over
Yeah,
because
it's
I'm
similar. Yeah.
really serious about knowing my shit, right? Like that's people like, how do you know shit? I'll tell you exactly how I read a book. I read the book and I have highlights, assuming I want to know. Right? This is a book. Put it down. 2 years later, I'll come back and I'll read only the highlights.
Yeah.
A year later, I'll come back and I'll read everything but the highlights. And that's when I've read the book. That's when I've read the book. It's not the first time. It's not. And now I'm adding this Audible thing to it. Because like
Yeah.
podcast, I used to think like Audible, that sounds corny. It feels like I'm cheating. Feels like I'm lazy. Right.
Mm.
But when you're actually stuck in traffic and instead of listening to the radio or any music, you're listening to a book in traffic, man, I get out of the car, my mind is sharper, my mood is up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because sometimes if you're just listening to music, you can be manipulating your emotions and this can be good sometimes, using the music to stay in a state, but an audiobook is elevating you because it's new information. A podcast is elevating you. You know what I'm saying? And so I still feel like I read less because I'm back and forth between audiobooks and or physical books. But now the thing I'm doing is I will, if I really want to know a topic, I will buy the book and the audiobook and go through both separately. You know what I mean?
It's interesting. You mentioned repeating, going through the same book more than once and
Yeah.
trying to go through. different things out. I do the same thing with podcasts or with videos and instructionals and things. I rewatch the same thing. You know, there's I'm literally today while I was down at the gym doing the cleaning. While I was doing the cleaning, I was listening to you know, the American judo player Travis Stevens.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he was on the Lex Fridman podcast, right? And so I don't follow that podcast, but I follow Travis Stevens. I wanted to listen to him talk.
Yes.
I've listened to that episode probably 6 times now. Like, I know all the stories in it. I know what he's going to say.
Right. But you're still trying to distill things from it, right? Like,
yeah, it's like having a conversation with someone, right?
When Lex interviewed Roger and they watched his fight with Buchecha, look, that was one of the greatest jiu-jitsu podcast moments ever.
Oh, yeah, easily, yeah.
That's one of the best ever. In terms of discerning a human where they are as they are in one of their most important moments, that was incredible.
Let me ask you
that idea, but it was incredible.
Let me ask you then. So that match, Hodger and Buchecha, like, for me, that's probably one of the most, not necessarily best or most entertaining matches of jiu-jitsu, but arguably one of the most pivotal and probably one of the best displays of jiu-jitsu that I've ever seen, I think, in history, right?
No doubt. I don't
agree, right?
I 100% agree. I 100% agree. And I'm not even sure what the second one would be. What
I was going to say,
you put behind that, right? But you can only do that because the culture has grown. You can only do that because jiu-jitsu is old enough and established enough in mainstream society to have generations that understand what was at stake.
Yeah.
If you don't know who Roger is, what his reputation is, and how technical he is, if you don't understand the storm that Buchecha was, bro, I had a guy throw a tournament that I knew in Florida, and he invited me to come out to either compete or watch. And then something happened. I ended up not going, just on some family stuff, whatever. You know, at that time I was still married, whatever. I didn't make it. You know who won the black belt matches that year? Some guy from Brazil. They call him Buchecha. And he's sitting there with a little, right? And then when you watch that thing, the documentary on him on YouTube, the Buchecha documentary, he talks about being Florida. And I'm like, I know that, dude. Like, you know? And that's when he was, you know, sharpening his blades as an apex predator.
Yeah.
So, like, understanding the history of Roger, the history of Buchecha, what that meant culturally for the sport, I don't think you can recreate those moments. I mean, he risked his entire legacy on one fight against a guy who was killing everyone. Imagine Jordan coming out to play professional real quick one-on-one against Kobe just because people want to see what's up.
Yep.
Bro. Right? And the thing is, for a lot of people who are new to jiu-jitsu, or people who don't do jiu-jitsu at all that may just be listening to this, none of it will make sense if you don't do jiu-jitsu. None of it will.
No.
What you're seeing won't make sense, right? And so a lot of it is how comprehensible is this moment for the viewer. I could show the same match to my dad and he'd be like, yeah, they're hugging each other still.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but dude, no. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure what the second thing would be. I'm not sure there's a second. You know what I mean?
Well, I have this discussion with people sometimes. So it kind of came off the back of the Craig Jones Invitational, right? So there was a match with it was Cade Rotolo versus Andrew Tackett.
Woo!
And people were saying that was the best jiu-jitsu match of the year, right? I mean, I might get burned for this one. I might get burned.
It's okay.
I disagree. Was it entertaining? Hell yeah. Right. That was one of the most entertaining matches I have ever seen. Was it the best display of jiu-jitsu that you've seen? No.
No. It
Now,
was,
if
you know
we're
what I think it was? I think it was the perfect mix of jujitsu and wrestling that the
yeah,
modern
yeah, you could say that. Yeah,
needing right now, right?
yeah,
Because the scrappiness of it, the
yeah,
sprawls,
yeah.
right? They're running it, right? Like that, and that doesn't mean that anybody wasn't technical. They would murder me 100.
Absolutely. Yeah, they'd both kick the shit out of me for a warm-up.
Yeah,
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 absolutely.
without question. But I think that, but I think that we could be looking at again a generational gap, right? And an expectation gap. What
Mhm.
people who put the gi on expect to see and how they carry themselves. Look at how those men carry themselves when they walk out. He's walking out mellow in his gi, belt tied, head is up, Half and Henzo to his left and right.
Yeah.
Luchesha walks out. He's got his squad with him, but they all got to be by themselves. You know what I'm saying? They're looking at each other. Everybody knows what's up, bro. When those two stand across the mat and look at each other, if you do this, you know what's up.
Yeah.
Know what's up. You know what's at stake in both
Mm.
mindsets, right? And individuals. But if you're just like, hey, jujitsu seems cool, that may not mean anything. And if it doesn't mean anything, but then you see Tackett versus Rotolo, even if you don't know jujitsu, you can relate to the scrappy wildness of it and be like, that's entertaining,
Yeah.
right? That's entertaining, right? But it was still like crazy, amazing stuff, dude. I'm excited to see what happens. Upcoming ADCC, upcoming Polaris, upcoming uh Craig Jones Invitational. Like of all the times that you could be a man alive who wanted to know how to fight, this is the best time ever.
Oh, now's the
This is
time.
the
Yeah, for
best
sure.
time ever. Can you imagine me and you in the 30s?
Yeah, none of this around.
30.
None of them.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. Uh, I
Yeah.
think we're gonna do some pugilistic combat. And then you'll be like, I'm bringing a catch wrestling from, you know what I'm saying? Like, dude, it would not be, I mean, it would still be bold. It would still be two humans giving themselves to a moment in
Yeah.
combat, but the knowledge, wisdom, skills, strategy, philosophy, any E you put in there, not equivalent to right now.
It's
This is
crazy
the
to watch
best
all
time.
the like there's almost like a saturation point that's being hit, I think, because there's so many tournaments going on, there's so many high level guys, they're all doing so many different things. You're like, well, how do you keep up with it? Like the amount of jiu-jitsu events that are on now, like it's my job to do jiu-jitsu and watch it, and I can't keep up with most of it. Like
Bro,
it's just happening all the time.
dude, doing what I do at Half Gracie, doing what I do at LinkedIn, doing what I do with my private clients, still inquire whenever you like people. I can't follow it. You know,
No.
uh purple belt student Josh, blue belt student Katarina, Michael Sunday, other people will show up and they'll be like, hey, dude, did you see? Did you see? Or they'll send me stuff. And I'm so grateful to them because I just wouldn't have seen it. I wouldn't have seen it if they didn't send it to me. I
Yeah.
wouldn't know who this person even is, let alone that they're awesome. And so, and that makes me feel beautiful. You know what I mean? It doesn't make me feel out of touch. The fact that it's moving so fast I can't keep up is beautiful, you know?
It's cool because it gives you something to chase. It's nice to be wearing a black belt, but also be like, damn, I've got to keep up. Like I'm not just
Yeah.
sitting at the top now, just handing things down to people below me, and
Yeah.
like, oh, there's no more learning to be done now. Like
Yeah.
circling back to what we started talking about at the start, man, there's so much learning to be done. Like keeping up is genuinely difficult. Like it's hard to
It
keep up with.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, no, no. Uh, there was a blue belt girl, Katarina Calavides, who's really dangerous and upcoming. Same with Josh Tooman from Half Gracie right now. Michael said we got some killers right now, but she showed me a way to maintain back control that she learned from another black belt at an open mat. I had never seen it. She's like, yeah, so if you just stay here, then you put your leg like that and you kind of weave it, you can like see you can't leave. And they put somebody in. I was like, can you leave? And they were like, no. I was like, that's awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love stuff like that. last week I had forgotten my belt here, and I went to class, and I put on a white belt, and I went to go teach the kids class, and the kids were like, "You have a white belt on?" And I was like, the owner Dorian, I was like, "Dorian demoted me. He said I didn't do good last week, so I have to work." And I was like, "No," I said, "Guys, listen, like a black belt at the end of the day, right? It's something beautiful to aspire toward, but in the end, it is only a symbol of my potential on any given day. It's only a symbol. It is not proof that I can beat anybody anywhere in any situation, right? It means that I've done the work to get to this point, and there is an implied skill set and capability in this color. But I am still a student. I am still learning. There's still tons of things I don't know and won't know, right? And there's still things that I learned from you watching you guys do things. So I don't feel sad to wear this white belt, because I'm happy to be a student in this forever, you know? And it's really true, man. It's really true. I'm 55, the knees are trash. I got, I got preferences, places I don't like to be, things I do think are cool, things I'm like, I just don't have the time to, I don't, it's not even that I dislike it. I just don't, I can't follow that right now, because I got to be over here. We all have our priorities, especially after black. You know what I'm saying? Like from purple on, you start prioritizing your game, your arsenal, your counter arsenal, your takedowns, your takedown defenses, right? It becomes more personal at that time. But I'm always going to be a student of this, even if these legs give out, even if they get cut off. I'm gonna love jujitsu with or without limbs, as long as I can breathe in my and I have a discernible consciousness. I will try to absorb as much as I can and always enjoy jujitsu and fighting.
Dude, I think that approach is the reason that you got to and are a fantastic black belt. That's the reason, right? Like if you didn't have that approach to it, then you wouldn't be where you are doing what you are. You wouldn't be as good as you are. You wouldn't know what you know. The guy recently started picking up judo, training judo once a week.
Yeah.
And got to put the white belt on for judo because I'm a white belt in judo.
Yeah.
And dude, it's kind of nice to put a white belt on, isn't it? It's kind of nice, and to go like, I'm not just talking and saying that I've got this student mindset.
Yeah. I am an
I'm putting this
absolute
white belt
beginner.
on. I'm going to climb up through the belt. I'm going to get my yellow belt. I'm going to get my red belt. I don't know all the belts in judo. I should check. But I'm going to go up through the belt. So I'm going to get to be a student. How cool is it? Like, let me ask you something. When was the last time? Because this is only something that since I've become a black belt has really stood out in my mind. Really stood out in my mind. When was the last time you got to just be on a class learning from the coach? Because you're a coach and a black belt now.
Right.
Which means if
Right.
you're on the mat, you're probably the dude at the front that everyone's listening to, right?
Yeah. Well,
How often do you get to just be the guy that's training,
you know what? Every once in a while, I make sure that I will do one or two things where I will sit in on somebody else's class and just do what they do, right? Like whatever they're teaching, and I'll be the uke for them. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
or because I'm an older black belt, like we got a new black belt named Raul. So a lot of times, like once I know the module is and Raul comes in, I'll be like, "Hey, dude, we're doing back attack escapes. You got anything you want to show?" And he'll be like, "Yeah, I got something." So then, like, I may just not even teach and be like, Raul's going to show, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because his back escapes of right now as a black belt who's only had his black belt for 3 months are going to be different than mine, and I want to
yeah,
see
yeah,
those, right? I want to
yeah.
see those, and so and definitely anything that deals with takedowns, like you said, like if I went to a judo school, the white belt is absolutely getting thrown on, dog, because I'm gonna get bodied. You know what I'm saying? I think it's really cool. Real quick, before we close out, I wanted to give a shout out to the good people on Instagram at Zen Gear Sportswear, because
Oh, yeah, Steve. Yeah.
Steve is awesome, right? If you guys go to IG, go to Zen Gear, met him there. at my last seminar at Leicester Shoe Fighters, and the gear is amazing, high quality, fits amazing. I mean, so durable and light, man. Like a lot of trash rash guards out there. Like, I mean, honestly, I'm terms of
Yeah.
quality, right? But when you get that balance of design with durability, man, Zen Gear Sportswear, man, is
Hey man,
legit.
I'll tell you a quick story. This won't be any interest to anybody else watching this, but you'll like this, right?
Yo,
So I met Steve teaching at another club. I was teaching classes at a really good friend of mine, a guy called Wayne. Well, you
yeah,
know Wayne,
Wayne's
yeah, the judo
amazing.
thing. Yeah. So
Speaking of judo and white belts
yeah,
in the
right.
presence of, Wayne
Yeah,
will
exactly.
body you. Wayne Lakin,
Well,
are you kidding me?
yeah, I'm very fortunate that, like, just through years of doing martial arts and through connections I've made through my coach Nathan, I've ended up meeting a lot of really high level people over the years, and a lot of them happen just coincidentally happen to be in judo. So
Yeah,
at the moment, the two people that are teaching me judo, one's Wayne, who is a
yeah,
Commonwealth gold medalist
yeah,
and is the S&C coach to Olympians in judo,
yeah.
and the other one's a guy called Dan Powell, who I met through our friend Sanjay, and Dan,
Sanjay,
yeah,
what's up? Notepad
so
wisdom at notepad underscore wisdom on IG.
yeah. So I just met through him. I met a guy called Dan Powell, who's a Paralympian and has just won the World Championships as well. So the two guys teaching me judo are about as fucking high level as it gets. Very
Bro.
cool, right?
Yeah,
So
man.
I was
No,
teaching classes over at Wayne's place and met Steve through him. He did my morning classes there for a while. Then he started coming over to shooting training here. Steve's like probably one of the most well-read martial artists you'll ever meet. He's trained
really?
it. If you could name a martial art, he's probably done it. Which for
Wow.
me, as like coming from an old school traditional martial arts background, getting to hang out with a guy who's done a bit of everything is really cool. It's very cool.
No,
Like
that's
I don't
fantastic.
meet as many old school martial artists now as I used to because there's just you're moving through the generations
You're
now,
in
right?
your ecosystem, right, of your style,
Yeah.
right?
And it's very
No,
cool.
that's
Yeah.
beautiful, man. That's beautiful, man. So, um, shout out to Sanjay at Notepad Wisdom on IG. He's gold, and he's the reason I met you.
Yeah, we wouldn't know each other
Right?
if it wasn't for Sunday, man. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's the beauty of it. And me and him met because he listened to my podcast. We started talking online and became homies. And like now he's one of my best friends. And you know what I mean? His daughter's amazing at judo and jujitsu. And
And jiu-jitsu, yeah.
it's cool, man. You know, his game is evolving. He's doing his thing, and it's impressive and it's a blessing. I love this sport, bro. I love this sport. Like, like sometimes I think about not only that I found jujitsu, but that I found jujitsu and got to be at one of the greatest schools, Gracie. Got to learn from some of the greatest and train with some of the greatest people in the greatest time. And that has introduced me to amazing people like you. I could have never fathomed going to, I didn't know Leicester existed.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people
It's
don't.
actually because I'm a dumb American, right? I'm just a dumb American. California, San Francisco, right? Like, what? Right? Leeds, right? Like Barnsley. I've been all over, man. I love it. London and like jujitsu gave me this opportunity. And I'm going to remind you that you're so delinquent in coming to California. I am disgusted. There's a lot of things I love about you, but I don't love that you have not yet been to the Bay Area.
Yeah, I promise I will get around to it. I promise.
You heard it here. He promised.
It's on record now, man. It's on record.
All
It's on
right.
record.
All right, man. So if people want to get in touch with you, how do they do it? Where do they do it?
Oh, dude, if you get in touch with the gym, you'll probably be talking to me. Like,
Right.
you get in touch with Leicester Shoe Fighters on social media anywhere. It almost
Yeah.
always comes to myself.
Yeah.
You can find me at kgreenbjj on Instagram. But I'm absolutely terrible at posting on there. I'm very slow with stuff. So,
He's
like,
too
I'm
busy
usually
killing
too
people
busy.
and building killers. He's too
Yeah,
busy.
well, this is why I always tell people, like, this is why I don't get in any trouble off the mats. It's because I'm always on the mats. Like, I can't get in trouble. I'm always here. Like, I'm always doing jiu-jitsu. So,
Yo, man. I appreciate you. Thank you for being on Bishop Chronicles. And I appreciate what you do, man. You got a great school. You've got a really kind heart, very tough. And thank you for what you do for the martial arts community in the UK. Yeah?
dude, thanks for having me on today. Thank you.
All right, man. Take care, brother. One love. Hold on, let me just stop this recording. How do I stop this recording? Dun 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 dun. I don't know. Oh, there it goes.